Hi, welcome back to the Distressed Princess. Here are the DIYs I'm working on today. For the adorable bathroom sign, you'll need this wooden sign that you get at the Dollar Tree, and then remove the jute string hanger. Then I painted the sign using my Rust-Oleum chalked paint in white linen. However, I should have sanded the sign first. It was a little rougher than I thought it was. So I would recommend sanding first, and then I do one coat of the chalk paint, front, back, sides, everywhere. But then afterwards, I'm going to go over it with a layer of gloss spray paint to give it a metal look. Then I stenciled the words on using Magnolia Design Company's Stencil. And I love these chalk paste stencils. They're screen stencils. They are so easy to use and fun. Before you put the stencil onto your project, they say to fuzz it. And that is where you lay it on a towel and press it down and peel it up a couple of times. And I guess that makes it not quite so sticky, so it's not going to peel your paint up if you have painted something. So then the next part is to find the center of the sign, which sometimes I have trouble doing, but it looked pretty good right there. So once you find the center of the sign, then go ahead and press it all down. Now, if you do not have a stencil already that you would like to use, you could definitely make this sign using a vinyl cutter and just make these words, or you could freehand just draw. I mean, it's just writing. If you have pretty handwriting, you could definitely draw this on with a paint marker. The next step is to apply the chalk paste, and this is the Magnolia Design Company chalk paste in coal black. And I haven't used this black one since October when I made some Halloween signs, and it did seem to kind of gel up in the jar a little bit, and the jar was sealed tight. I'm not for sure if I should have added some water or something, but it's usually not so thick. It is a thicker chalk paint product, but it's not usually this thick. So if anyone has any experience with these chalk paste and can tell me if this is normal, if I should have added any water to thin it down or something, leave me a comment below, please, and let me know what you do in this situation. But it still worked just the same. I used my little Magnolia squeegee to apply it, and it worked just the same. After all of the paste is applied, then gently remove the stencil, and look how cute this sign is already. The next step is to use black acrylic paint to go around the edges of your sign to give it that kind of enamel wear look. And I always feel like it's easiest to do this technique going around the edges with a sponge brush, and this one came from the Dollar Tree. The next thing you need for this sign is a hanger. And I'm using a piece of a plant hanger that came from the Dollar Tree, and those hangers come with 3 chains. And so this is just one of the chains off of that hanger, but it's too long. So here I'm just kind of looking to see how many links I need to take out of the chain so that it's the right length for me. Then when I decided how many links needed to be removed, I used my wire cutters, but you could use pliers. Pliers would probably be better, needle nose pliers if you have them. And you just bend those links and take off the ones that you don't need. And then you will bend the links on each end into a hook shape. Then just put the hooks through the holes that are already on the sign and go grab a hammer, because then you'll hammer them down into place. And there you have the really cute bathroom sign. Now just hang it on your kid's bathroom door. For the next DIY, I'm using this clear plastic tray that I got at the Dollar Tree. And on this DIY, I'm using the Waverly stencils that I got at Walmart for about $6, and they are screen stencils as well. And they are pretty much just like the Magnolia Design Company stencils. But before you get to the stencil fun, first you have to do some painting, and I did 2 coats of the Rust-Oleum chalked in linen white inside and out. And as always, make sure your project is completely dry if it's painted before you add any stencils so that your paint doesn't come back up. And with these Waverly stencils, I cut them apart so that I could spell out my word with the individual letters. And again, I'm using the Magnolia Design Company coal black chalk paste for my stenciling, but I have experimented and I've used regular chalk paint before with these screen stencils, well, with the Magnolia Design Company ones. And regular chalk paint works pretty well too. Not quite as well as chalk paste, but it works as well. And honestly, on the instructions for these Waverly stencils, it says use chalk paint. I love the font that this alphabet set is. It has like a little shadowy line around each letter that I think is so vintage. Now, before I put down my next letter, I decided it might be a good idea to dry it with a hair dryer really good, so that if my stencil overlapped that paint that I just put down, it won't take it back off. And also, you'll notice I started with my center letter. My word is biscuits, and so C would be the center letter, and so I put that in the center of the plate and worked my way out so that I was trying very hard to center the whole word on the tray. In the process of stenciling, I went off the rails a little bit, got some of that black chalk paste on my white part of the tray that I didn't want there, so I went back over that with some more white chalk paint, and I did a few layers letting them dry in between, and it covered it right up. Also, the letters that I had to use twice in the word, the S and the I, the second time around didn't go quite as neatly as the first time around, and I guess I should have probably rinsed the stencil before I used it for the second time, and then the paint would have went through a lot better. But you know, lesson learned. I just went back with a black paint marker and filled in where it was lacking. If you wanted to, you could actually use this tray in your kitchen and put your biscuits on it, but I would do several coats of the dishwasher safe Mod Podge to seal it. But my tray is just for decoration purposes only, and it's going to set up on my kitchen shelf. For the next DIY, I'm using 4 of these decorative glass signs that I found at the Dollar Tree, but if you can't find them at your store, picture frames would work well too. I just really liked that these signs are chunky little square signs. The first thing I did was remove the wording, and at first I tried fingernail polish remover, but that didn't budge it. So I just used my razor scraper from the Dollar Tree and it scraped right up, no problem. Now the next step is to paint around the edges, so you'll need to tape off the glass so that you don't get paint on your glass. And I had an idea when I was doing this. Do you do your own nail polish? Do you use that liquid latex stuff? Maybe that would be something to use in our DIY projects, to instead of using masking tape to keep paint off of the glass. Just an idea. So anyway, back to the painting. I used my Rust-Oleum chalked in linen white, and I did 2 coats, making sure that I did the inside parts right up against the masking tape. I sped up the drying time with my hair dryer and then peel the tape off. If there's any white paint that got underneath of your tape, it's really easy just to take your scraper from the Dollar Tree and scrape it right back off like you did the original black words that were on these. Next, we're going to attach all of these using E6000 glue and hot glue. And before you skip over this project, like, oh, not another window, I have a twist for you. This isn't just one of your regular old windows. Now, give that E6000 just a little bit of time to set up. You know I'm impatient, so I didn't wait more than 5 minutes, but very carefully flip your window over, and we're going to give some stability to the back using these extra large popsicle sticks that actually came from Home Depot. I think it was $1 for this whole big pack. And again, I'm using E6000 and hot glue to put these popsicle sticks onto the back of the window. For the front of the window, I wanted something besides a wreath, and I had this big metal home sign that I got at the Dollar Tree, and with E6000 and hot glue, I'm going to glue it to the center. Now for the twist. I thought this window needed a little something, and since I was quite enjoying this stenciling. I went and got some stencils that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I couldn't pick which one of those little squares I wanted, so I decided just to use the whole thing. And I'm using black chalk paint that is also from the Dollar Tree to do my stenciling, and a stenciling pouncer sponge brush that is from the Dollar Tree as well. A few tips that I learned along the way is it probably would have been better if I had taped my stencil down, but I didn't do that. Also, I think less paint is better. I think the stencil comes out cleaner the less paint you use. When I peeled this up, I was so happy. I thought that was just the cutest design. It is just what this window needed. Look how cool that is. Okay, so now for a hanger on the back, I used a piece of wire and two little screws that I just happened to have on hand that came off of a bracket or something, but you need small screws because you don't have much to, this is just a popsicle stick that you're working with. You don't have much to screw into. So these are just the tiniest little screws and the tiniest little screwdriver. Once you get a good start and your screw is going down into the popsicle stick, then wind your wire around the post of the screw and then continue fastening it down until the wire is secure. And then repeat the same process on the other side. Now it's all secure, and just look at these stencils. That is such a cool result for something that came entirely from the Dollar Tree. Now I did notice that one of my popsicle sticks was hanging out the end, so I got my sharp utility knife and cut it off. I would definitely call this a modern farmhouse piece. And for the last DIY, I'm using this plastic decorative cake tray that came from the Dollar Tree, and I wanted it to have a stand, but they didn't have any candle holders. That's what I wanted to use. So I'm improvising with this small jar candle that is also from the Dollar Tree. So the first thing I had to do was clean the wax out of the jar, and this was very easily accomplished by just running it under really hot tap water and scooping the wax out with a spoon. And so that nothing goes to waste, I'm using the wax that I scooped out of the jar to make my own wax melts. And the hot water had made the wax very pliable, so I was able to put it between two pieces of wax paper and form it into a circle, kind of like making a hamburger patty. Then I used my big chopping knife to cut it into squares. It's funny, this wax pretty much looks like mango when you're cutting it up. And also, the scent of this candle is called Pineapple Punch, and that's another major reason why I wanted to save it, because it really smells so good. Once you get your squares cut, just wrap it up in the wax paper and pop it in the freezer to harden. After the wax has hardened, then you need something cute to put it in, and what else but a mason jar. So that is how I repurposed my scooped out candle wax and made 2 DIYs for the price of 1. Now for the original DIY, The candle jar is now clean, and I used Goo Gone to get rid of any of the sticky that was left over from the original label that was on the candle. And we're going to attach the cake plate to the candle holder. And we're going to do that with trusty old E6000 and hot glue. Then just spray paint the whole thing with your white spray paint of choice. It took a few coats with this Rust-Oleum, and this DIY is complete. And here's a look back at all of our modern farmhouse DIYs today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you're having a lovely day. Hit the like button if you liked my video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.